Tonight we're going with, let's get this right, Vitamin Water Power C Dragon Fruit. Oh, excuse me, Vitamin Water Zero. So this doesn't have any sugar in it. This is 0 calories in the serving size of one bottle. That will be fueling my way through this bittersweet, very odd feeling, interesting episode of Coast to Coast Pinball. I don't even know if it's a full episode. I guess we'll call it episode 224. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is the podcast commentary. I am a man with a few Papa tokens left in my pocket, I do believe. How you guys all doing? Glad you're joining me here. This is a weird episode because this is the last episode before the dark out, the hiatus, the vacation, if you will. I alluded to it on Pinside. We'll talk about it more later. Coast to Coast Pinball's taking a little break, and there's reasons for that. But first, I want to recap and do a little trip report. I'm not adding the sound effect tonight. I can't. Not right now. I want to do a little trip report on the trip to Carnegie, Pennsylvania, Papa 19. And really, I got to tell you, to start this, I honestly was really hoping that this show would start off with a quick phone call to the friend of the show, friend of mine, Josh Sharp, who I was really pulling for to win the IFPA 13 World Championships today, and he finished in second place. He went down in the final match against Daniele Assiari out of Italy, who's a fantastic player, fantastic champion player, and man, I was really pulling for Josh. He was so close. He lost 4-2 in the final. Really tough games. Had some tough out lanes. Harlem Globetrotters was an intense, tough game. But when you're playing things like, Avengers that are set up pretty brutal, and Wizard, things like that. It was interesting. Very interesting final there. I was really pulling for Josh, but congratulations to Daniele. We had all sorts of champions named in Pennsylvania. This was a crazy weekend, 2-week stretch at the Papa facilities for competitive pinball, because not only was the IFPA 13 tagged on to the end of Papa, at the beginning of Papa was the Papa Circuit final, which is the culmination of the Papa Circuit. So you have people who've gained points all year long. They play in this final really cool format tournament. All hail Keith Elwin. Keith Elwin takes home the coolest trophy in pinball, which is the world title belt, a la a pro wrestling type thing. It's fantastic. Keith wins. Really fun to watch that stream. That was a lot of fun. Keith played great. Hats off. The best ever at competitive pinball is still one of the best out there. So fantastic. Papa 19. So I guess I'll just kind of run through it from where I saw things. I'll give you my whole rundown. I went into Papa 19 with really high expectations for myself. I was back in the C division because that's where I belong, and I wanted to play great, and I played okay. And on day 1, I played okay. And on day 2, I played okay minus 10%. And by day 3, I wasn't playing that well. I was distracted. I was trying to chase scores. Head wasn't in it. Wasn't really liking the games. Blah, 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 blah. Play better. I get it. So I did not qualify, and I sort of stopped putting in tickets at some point. I played one of the 3 Classics tournaments. I played 1 ticket. The lines were long. They're very aware of that at Papa. They saw it. They talked about it. Everybody was talking about how long the lines were, which points to something about how well attended Papa was in general this year. Yes, you had a bunch of the Euro players in because of all the tournaments happening at once, but it was way beyond that. There were just more people there to play in the tournaments. They're very well-run tournaments. There's an amazing selection of machines you can play at the Papa facility. Games you just won't find paired up anywhere else. You're just going to be able to go from cool Zachariah games to really neat classic Stern games to the, Game of Thrones Premium, all the modern stuff. It's just a fantastic collection of, I think, over 400 games. So really fantastic. Great turnout. Great buzz in the room. Like Thursday was busy, and I was hearing rumors floating around from the Papa folk, or, two people that I was hearing from the Papa folk, that it was like record intake for entries and such. It was really a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I got to play a bunch of pinball with some friends. I hung out with friends of mine, just literally played all over the place. We were, there was kind of three of us who were playing a bunch together, where we would often add a fourth player in, and we would play a game, and it was all in token play, because that's how the Pop-Up facility works. And the winner of the game would get to choose the next game we were going to play, anything they wanted, and not pay for the game. So the losers, either 2 or 3 losers, had to play whatever the winner wanted to play and pay for his credit. So it was a lot of fun. Got to play all over it. Had a great time hanging with Ed and with Drew and Dave and Gene and Danny and just so many people. I'm forgetting a million people that I got to hang out with. But I tell you, I really had a great time. It really was one of those, we hear this sometimes, that it's not about the games, it's about the people in the hobby. It's really true. Russell, Adam, Escher, Matt, Mike, just people I got to hang out with and play pinball. It was a lot of fun. Kevin and Nick up from Buffalo. It was just fantastic time. I had so much fun just playing pinball. It was really good time. So despite my inability to do any damage in the tournaments, I really enjoyed just playing and hanging. A lot going on for me, so it was probably best that I just had a relaxing weekend. The real story, the long-lasting story coming out of Papa 19 is going to be the culmination of this kind of, I don't know, just like really amazing story of Robert Gagno. And where do I start? So Robert, if you don't know his story, he is a top-level pinball player who has autism and latched onto pinball at a very early age, dedicated a lot of his energy towards becoming great at pinball. The Wizard Mode documentary, which we've talked about here on the show, will be coming out and being released shortly. Cannot wait to see it. I think it's a story well beyond pinball. It's going to play to a lot of people outside of our little bubble of pinball. Getting to see, Robert win Papa 19 and become the world champion at Papa was amazing. Getting to watch his father see him do it was maybe even better. I mean, I don't want to say I got choked up over a pinball tournament, but for crying out loud, it was pretty freaking cool. And, he was playing against Zach Sharp in the final group. Not just Zach, but Zach was get down to kind of Robert and Zach on the last game, where that's one of those two was likely going to win. And of course, I'm friends with Zach, so I would love to see Zach win Papa and get his name on the banner. But you couldn't deny what a great story this was. You had Jim Belcito, who's one of the most mild-mannered, nicest people out there in the competitive scene. You had John Replicable, who is one of my favorite people in pinball. He's just always smiling, always happy. Hometown boy. It was a lot of the local people out of Pittsburgh were rooting for him. And then you had this force of nature, Robert Gagno, with the continual smiles and energy. And I don't know. It just kind of, I don't believe in meant to be. That's not me. I don't believe in things were predestined or any of that nonsense. But I think that's actually better. I think that it's better when you see something happen like this, because this is, a person who has found something that gives him joy and takes his focus and his attention. And it was pretty amazing watching him take it down. And he views the game, I think, slightly different than a lot of people. And to see that, pay off there is pretty awesome. So, if you want to go back and watch, I think it's a 6-hour stream of the finals and the final days. I did some commentary in there. Brian Tessier, Steve Bowden, and I did. I believe we were in the quarterfinals, so I did the quarterfinal round. It was a lot of fun. It was good, trying to bring the levity side to the pinball commentary. I'm not rules guy. That's why Steve Bowden's there. and I was just trying to make it conversational and just have some fun while there were a few hundred people watching pinball on Twitch with Papa TV. So, but amazing run by Robert, Keith, and then Daniele today. Really fantastic time. Hats off to the Papa crew. I mean, Mark and Doug and Elizabeth and everybody there. And I hate even naming names. I always feel like I'm going to leave somebody out. All the volunteer scorekeeping was really a good. And you know what? If you're one of those people, let me just say this. I'm going to take a tiny tangent. If you're one of those people who's listening to this, and I know you're listening, and you're sitting there going, oh, this guy's too sugary, and he's too nice, and he sugarcoats everything. I need something more hardcore in my pinball podcast. Suck an egg, brother. Suck an egg. That's all I got to say to you. Because I had a really good time, and that's what I'm here to talk about. It's my good time. So, the Papa crew was fantastic. Big crowds. Lines moved as quick as they possibly could. Good times, man. Really good times. I don't know. That's where I'm at. I was exhausted by the end of the trip. I went straight back out to work. I was on a work trip, and I'm still now here Thursday night as we come to you, not live from a beautiful, cool spring evening on April 14th, 2016 in San Diego. I'm still a little bit worn out. So I can tell you I fell in love with some pinball machines, games I'd even played before, but just getting to play them with a group of friends and hang out. I can tell you the highlights of my weekend were often on 9-ball from Stern and everybody's favorite Crickets and all Frontier. Those are the games I played a lot. I had a walk-off final win in my little group of friends on Alien Star. You guys know what happened. And I don't know, it's good times. So let me I don't know. I feel like I should say something profound here, but I have nothing profound to say. Getting to watch the Bo and Karens, getting to watch guys like Andre Masenkoff, Adam Lefkoff, Escher Lefkoff, getting to watch these guys play pinball at Papa is pretty fun because those machines are brutal. There's TVs on most of those Final A-Bank games, so you can actually see what they're doing. And it inspires me every year. And seeing, Alien Star is a great example because that was in the Final Bank 2 years ago. And it was a game that I never really thought much of, but when you see these great players sort of exploit it and play it great and do these things to the games, it makes you appreciate them. And that's one of the upsides to the competitive side of pinball, because I love just playing pinball for fun. I do it. I come home from work almost every day. I pet the dog, kiss the wife, and I come in and I play at least a game or two of pinball just to like let it go, let it have some fun, try and throw up a score. But I'm not sure if I would find myself, playing something like Hang Glider just for the fun of it, if it wasn't like a little bit of a competitive thing between me and some friends. And when you extrapolate that out to Time Fantasy in the C-Bank at Papa, where you learn the tricks and how to do it, and to spell time and drain your balls, to do all that stuff, competitive pinball gives me new love and new appreciation for those older games. Right? So it's not just about pinball as a sport or whether or not it's a sport. It's absolutely a competitive something, whatever you want to call it, your definition of sport. But it's another side to pinball as a hobby that really can put a bright, focused light on games that might not otherwise be as appreciated. At least that's how I feel about it, right? And this is my commentary. So let's play some sort of music and then pop back in to wrap up this really weird short last day of school type episode, if you will. All right. So what's going on? Hold on, let me take a drink of this lovely vitamin water. So I kind of knew this was coming for a little while, and I snuck a few shows in leading up to Papa, mostly interview shows, and it's good. It was real good. And I got some emails last week at some point where some people said, hey, you're getting brought up in a different thread on Pinside, you should go check it out. And by the time I'd logged in, it wasn't anything major, just some people bringing up the podcast, and then comparing the new version of the podcast, as they say, or where I went with all the competitive talk, to the old version of the podcast. And It was into the Coast to Coast Pinball thread on Pinside. I think that the whole Nate only talks about competitive pinball thing is fairly overblown, because I actually in the moment went and looked at like the past 30 episodes and kind of looked at what they were about, and less than half actually focused on competition. But I think that it's probably it stands out when I have someone like Josh Sharp on the show and we talk mostly about competitive pinball. That stands out in sharp contrast to, say, back when I was doing episodes like all about all the games that were released in like 1995 or whatever. That's just the evolution of the show. The show evolved from someone who was really, really in love with pinball, who had found pinball again after a long time being away from it. From just growing up and not being a teenager hanging out in arcades anymore, and not, stopping in pizzas, not forcing my girlfriend to eat in a pizza place just so I could play the pinball machine. I was working a job. I was trying to make a living. I was taking care of my elderly father who, was really old and needed someone to take care of him. So pinball wasn't a part of my life for most of my 20s. And in my 30s, I just came back with a vengeance, and I love pinball. And I think I came back in right as a lot of people were getting back into pinball. And I came in very casually at first, just seeing some new games out in the field and playing them, and then finding Pinside and just reading it for a year without ever even creating a username, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really need to talk about anything. Just following it and searching for games while I traveled, to buying a Street Fighter II pinball machine for $600 and getting it home and just cleaning every little bit of it and making it the best playing Street Fighter II. And I don't care what you people say about, Gottlieb Premier games. They're awesome. In back of my head thinking, I'll never spend $5,000 on a pinball machine. That's crazy. To being on the road with Teresa and her saying, you should do a podcast. You'd be great at this. To me thinking, no, nobody wants to listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. To doing it and putting that first episode out there and feeling completely vulnerable, and misspeaking lots of times and just trudging through, putting my head down and saying, I don't care. Doesn't matter. It's just a commentary. It's just me talking. If they don't like it, they don't have to listen. And watching those downloads tick up. I remember the first time an episode had 500 downloads. I was like, oh my gosh, 500 people listened to that thing. And I remember for a long time thinking there was about 1,000 people listening. That was my logic for a long time on Coast to Coast Pinballs, that I had somewhere around 1,000 people listening. But I had sold like 380 t-shirts at that point. And my beautiful wife, Teresa, who's much smarter than I am, she said, how many shirts have you shipped? Because she'd just see me like taking these shirts like every day before I go to work. I'd go to the post office. And I said, you know what? I think it's close to 400. And she goes, and how many people listen to the show? And I said, I don't know, really. I haven't kept very good records. It's a rolling 14-day count, so I have to like really be meticulous if I want to actually know how many people download the show. I said, I think about 1,000. And she goes, babe, I don't think it's 1,000 if you've sold like 400 shirts, because that would mean that 40% of your listeners have bought a t-shirt from you about a podcast. And I was like, yeah, that does seem a little odd. So then I got meticulous about keeping records, and it was like, oh my gosh, there's thousands of people listening to this show that I do. And it was weird. And then there were milestones. There was interview segments that just popped the show into people's, I guess, into their eyes. All of a sudden they knew who I was. It was different going to the pinball shows. People were like, oh, you got the podcast. I'm like, yeah. Some bad things brought the podcast out. The Predator fiasco with Skit B. That episode with Roger Sharp, where we talked about the Big Lebowski and Dutch Pinball. I mean, that run of episodes, even off into the J-pop episodes, it like doubled the listenership of the show. It was really odd, and those numbers didn't come back down much. And as I got more into the tournament side of things, I just noticed a hole, because there was lots of pinball podcasts that weren't there when I started, talking about the daily in and out of collecting and Pinside and all that. There's lots of people doing that, but there's nobody really talking and dissecting the competitive side. And I loved it. And I'd met a lot of those people, and those people are really great people. And a lot of those people who are out there at those tournaments, your Bowens, your Joshes, your Andy Roses, your people like that, those people have been there for a long time. So when people like to throw around who's like old school in pinball, those people are old school in pinball. Like, for reals. And I really love talking to them about pinball, about how to play better and about how to, master certain shot. The whole thing, if you're listening to this, you probably listen to that. And it changed. It did change. I wasn't as interested in diving back into every game released in 1986 and going through them one by one. I couldn't find the time in my day to do that, but I could find the time in my day to talk about the shows I was going to, talk about the new games, the news, what was happening on the cutting edge, the things that were actually affecting the business world of pinball, the hobby, the late breaking stuff. That was really interesting to me. When a new company announced a game, that was really interesting to me. When there were people speaking about their companies and their games and their projects at shows, that was really interesting to me. And that's what drove the show. The competitive side drove the show. I became friends with Josh Sharp, and I said to Josh a long time ago, do you want to commit to doing this once a month? Because I knew he's president of the IFPA. I have a show that people are actually listening to. I'll help him by promoting the IFPA through my show. Just, by him being there, it's promoting it. And he gives me content because it's a show where we can just talk. We can just talk about pinball. And it's fun. And, there is a lot of truth. People told me when I first started this show, look, being by yourself, you've done it a few times. It's going to get old really quick. And maybe it did for some of you. It doesn't for me, but I will tell you what it does do. It makes it harder. It's a lot harder to do a 45-minute podcast all by yourself because you have to prep. You have to know where you're going, or you just ramble. And I don't want to just ramble. I wanted to have a high quality of product that if I'm going to put all this time into it, I want it to at least be good. And it honestly, I know based on the feedback from very good people, it's been pretty good. And I'm very happy about that. So did it shift somewhat towards competition and tournament scene? Yeah, it did. Very happy with that. Listenership only grew. It only grew. My most downloaded episodes, aside from the big crazy, Predator license problems with Big Lebowski and J-Pop interview, you take those big crazy ones out, the biggest shows for me, the most downloaded shows are the last 10 that I did. So I liked where it all went. Which leads me to, I posted on Pinside that the show was taking a break, taking a hiatus. I was in a hotel in, I don't even know where I was. Was I in Pittsburgh already? Western New York, somewhere. And I read all that stuff, and people were there were a few people taking shots at me, which nothing new, been lots of shots taken at me over the past few years. And there were people defending me, and it's so good of you. Thank you. You don't need to do that. And I knew what was coming. I know that I have to do this. So I was like, all right, I'm going to throw it out there. And here we are. I threw it out there. I will, for those of you not on Pinside, I know there are some of you not on Pinside, I will go back and address my own post, if you will. So let's get this page to load. Here is what your host posted a little while back. Last week, really. All right. Basically, I said I read Pinside more than I post. I saw the comments, blah, blah, blah. I didn't plan on making an announcement or anything at this point. But since we're all here, and this is what I wrote. C2C, Coast to Coast, is on a break, a hiatus, a vacation, a trip to the islands, or whatever. I unpacked, quote, my recording stuff before I left for this current trip that includes Papa. It had to happen right now. More downloads than ever of the show. So it's not because I think the show's bad or isn't doing well or any of that nonsense. But, well, you will see. Because you will see. There's something coming. There's some stuff going on in my personal life. It's all really good stuff. Teresa's not pregnant. I said really good stuff. That is driving this recess, siesta, furlough, mercy killing. I don't know why I wrote that. That's me being self-hating. I don't need to do that. I was just joking. Or whatever it is. I'll share more when appropriate. In the meantime, I'm working on episode 4 of Pinball with the Pros, which I'm still working on. And then I said, I listened to the first episode of Tilt Through, which is a new podcast. Jack Danger, Zoe Variable, Bo and Karen's. Really like that. And then I said, thanks for listening. So that prompted a bunch of emails, a bunch of Facebook messages, a bunch of Pinside messages. And everyone was, what's going on? What are you doing? Is everything okay? I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. Things are good. All's well. There's some stuff going on that is going to change the way I want to, should do Coast to Coast Pinball. As far as time commitments, as far as even content and stuff. It's good stuff. You will see. It's going to be fun. And I can't wait to tell you about it, but I can't tell you about it yet. So I'm going to be super vague here, and it's super annoying. Don't delete Coast to Coast Pinball's RSS feed. I will tell you that. I will probably make the first announcement of what's happening right through this channel via Coast to Coast Pinball for an episode. You'll see it soon. I love you all for listening. Like, you don't even know. Like, I literally walked around the Papa World headquarters just, like, happy. Just so happy that I've met all these cool people. A lot of it via the podcast, and people were saying nice things and good times. A lot of people didn't know that this break was coming, and I didn't even bother to tell them because I was like, I don't want to get into it. You'll see. So that's all I got for now, guys. This is definitely, I can tell you this. This is definitely the end of something and the beginning of something else. All right? Until next time, please, please, please be nice to each other. Please play more pinball, and please take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you soon. And everyone's all mad now. They're like, but he didn't say anything. He, like, didn't answer any questions. I didn't answer questions. When, right? You want to know when you're going to hear something? Soon? Weeks? Months? Nah, months? Weeks? I don't know, something like that. Couple weeks? What's today? Hold on, let's look at a calendar here, since we're in overtime right now. You shouldn't still be listening to this. 1, 2, 3 weeks? 3 weeks-ish? Let's go with 3 weeks-ish. How about that? Good night.